हाँ कुंदन, हाँ मेरे तो अभी आ ही नहीं रहा, मेरे इस पे नहीं आ रहा। अच्छा वो चालू हो गया मेरे यहाँ पर, पहले तो आ रहा था, पता नहीं क्या हो गया। हाँ 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 दिख रहे हैं, आ रहे लोग के शर्मा लेफ्ट क्यों आ गए? अभी कुछ लोग आ रहे हैं, आ रहे हैं, 4-5 लोग ही हैं। ठीक है, ठीक है। आप कहा मोबाइल से किया? पर ये मेरे उसमें फिगर पूरे हम लोग आ नहीं रहे, दिख नहीं रहे। हाँ वो दिख नहीं रहे, दिख नहीं रहे। मैं थोड़ा इसको ऐसा करता हूँ, दोबारा बंद करके कर, इसको बंद करके करता हूँ। हाँ ठीक। काम में देने का ये काम करेंगे। हाँ इसको कैमरा नहीं था वो ड्राइंग में ठीक है रिकॉर्डिंग वो यूज मत करना रिकॉर्डिंग नहीं तो welcome you all. Are you hearing me? आप मुझे सुन रहे हैं आप लोग
Yes,
Hello.
sir. Yes,
Uh,
sir. I can hear.
uh, actually, we have two speakers today. One is Mamta Bora, and she will present right vision and right intention. The idea was that the participant should also take part. But see, we are listening will not help. And the after her presentation, Dr. Eva Nadrio, she will present. We have sent you the. So I think we should start now. I request Mamta Bora to present her PPT. Mamta, are you listening me?
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm present. One second.
you may start now. Well, I see 5 or 10 persons have joined, and or we can wait for 5 6. If you want, we can wait for 5 6 minutes.
So, can I start or will wait?
You may start because of those who will come, they will come attend.
Okay, sir. Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Dr. K.L. Sharma for giving me an opportunity to discuss the right view and the right intention from the Noble Eightfold Path, the way to the end of the suffering by Bhiksu Bodhi. This image you see is of one of the four noble truths of Buddhism. So, the eight factors of the Noble Eightfold Path are not the steps to be followed in the sequence, one after another. These are the component rather than the step. For practical training purpose, the eight path factors divided into three groups. First is the moral discipline group, made up of right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Second is the concentration group, made up of right efforts, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And the third is the wisdom group, made up of right view and a right intention. These three groups present the three states of training. The order of the three training is determined by the overall aim and the direction of the path, since the final goal to be which the path lead is the liberation from the suffering. Its ultimate aim is to uproot the ignorance and lead to the liberation. So we are going to discuss today the first two factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, that is the view and the intention, or the understanding and the thought. View is again divided are of two kinds: the right view and the wrong view. And the right view is again of two types: the modern right view and the superior right view. Same with the intention; they are also of two types: the right intention and the wrong intention. We'll see first the right view. The right view provide a perspective for the practice, and the right intention the sense of direction. So as we saw, the views are of two types. Right view correspond to what is real, and the wrong view deviate from the real and confirm the false in its place. So these view then condition our actions. They lies via our choice, goal, our effort to turn this goal from the ideals into actuality. So the right view is the forerunner of the entire path, the guide for all other factors. It enabled us to understand our starting point, our destination, and the successive landmark to pass as the practice advance. Here he gave an example. Suppose if you want to drive to some unknown place, you have the two choice. You ask the experienced driver or take help of the road map, or you can sit in the car and start driving. But you have to go through the trial and errors. So the comfortable journey will be the when you take the advice of the experienced driver. Yes. So the right to govern our attitude, our actions, our whole orientation to existence. It structures our perception, orders our value, framework through which we interpret to ourselves the meaning of our being in the world. These three have the far-reaching influence on us. This will see how. So the right view, as we saw, are of the two types. Buddhan right view, which again depends on the wholesome and unwholesome action and their roots. And the superior right view we will discuss under the four noble truths. So the right view which operate within the confine of the sorry, right view which operate within the confine of the world is called the modern right view, and the right view which leads to the liberation from the world is called the superior right view. So for the liberation, you need to have a superior right view. So here we'll understand the key term, the wholesome action. The action which is morally commendable, help in the spiritual growth, and the benefits for oneself and other is called the wholesome action. And the action which is morally blamable, worthy, does not help you in the spiritual growth and conduces to the suffering for oneself and other is called the unwholesome action. It is a volition that gives the action the ethical significance. So there are the three doors of the action, that is the body, mind, sorry, body, speech or mind. A volition expressed to the body is called the bodily action, speech is the verbal action, and the thoughts, idea are called the mental actions. So he gave the 10 codes of unwholesome action. Three are the bodily, three are the verbal, four are the verbal action, the three are the mental. As a correspond to this, there are the 10 wholesome actions also. So here are the example which I have given, one example of each. So we'll find out the motive or from where this sprout. So the action which are unwholesome or unwholesome depends on whether root are wholesome or unwholesome. So the roots are threefold. The roots for the unwholesome actions are greed, aversion, and delusion. And the roots for the wholesome actions are non-greed, non-aversion, and non-delusion. So how we are going to cultivate the unwholesome to wholesome, that we'll see later as we proceed further. So there is a cause and effect relation. Understanding that every will have the karmic result, wholesome and the unwholesome action will produce the corresponding result and effect. So the unwholesome action will ripen into the suffering and the wholesome in happiness. The next is the superior right view. The earlier right view which we saw does not lead to the liberation. You may attain to the high status within the rank of birth, but it won't lead you to liberation. So for liberation, you have to have the correct understanding of the four noble truths. So what it is? It is the understanding of suffering, cause of suffering, cessation of suffering, and the way leading to the cessation of suffering. So the first we'll see what is suffering according to Buddha. He said birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, even the five aggregates of clinging are suffering. So the five aggregates are material form, feeling, perception and mental formation and consciousness. All these are connected with clinging. We are phi and phi are us. Whatever we identify with, whatever we hold on to as ourself, falls with the set of phi aggregates. Together, this phi aggregate generate the whole range of thought, emotion, idea in which we dwell our world. Thus, the Buddha declared that the phi aggregates are dukkha, suffering, in effect bringing us experience and existence into the range of suffering.
Yeah.
The reason he said that the five things are good is that they are impermanent. They change from moment to moment. Second, he said the understanding of cause of suffering. So he talked about the chain of 12 links, that is the Bhav Chakra.
How to join Aksha.
12 link is a chain of suffering in the serial order. Suffering in the human life are due to the chain of 12 causes. This will cover the past, present, and our future life. The first link is of ignorance, gives rise to the impression and so on. Overcoming the ignorance is the key to break this bhav chakra. The present life is the effect of the past and the cause of our future life. He said the liberation is possible, and he gave the fourth and the way to the suggestions to the suffering. That is the way is the noble eightfold path, and we are doing. I am today covering the first two. That is the right view and the right intention. After that, we'll go to the second one, right intention of thought. The right intention claimed the second place in the path. It is a firm determination to reform the life in the light of truth. Buddha explained the right intention threefold: intention of renunciation, intention of goodwill, and intention of harmlessness. And the wrong will is the intention governed by the desire, intention governed by the ill will, and the intention governed by full harmful words. How is a so a period prior to his enlightenment, when he was meditating in the forest, what he saw that the two different types of thoughts were disturbing him. The one thoughts was the thoughts of desire, ill will, and the harmfulness. Sorry. So what he saw that these are the obstacles towards the wisdom and was taking him away from the liberation. And the second thoughts was of the renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness. And those were, he said, taking him towards the liberation and was good for his spiritual development. So, what he said that the cause of endless competition, conflict, and injustice does not lie outside the mind, but they all manifest of the thoughts driven by the greed, hatred, and delusion. So, we'll see how we have handled this one, all the three roots of unwholesome action. The first is the delusion. The moment the cultivation of eight noble truths began, so the wisdom training starts. So the wisdom training that is right view and the right intent together we counter the three roots of the unwholesome action, that is greed, delusion, and hatred. So we'll see how he handled to cultivate, remove the delusion and replace it with not delusion. So delusion, primary cognitive defilement, is opposed by right view. So when the seeds of wisdom is sown, the delusion is gone. The complete eradication of it takes place when the right view is developed at the stage of full realization. When we have full realization, it will eradicate it. So the greed and aversion. Intention of renunciation provides the remedy for greed. So to replace the greed, we have to cultivate the renunciation, that is non-greed. Here I have written what I feel, how to cultivate. We can cultivate the attitude of indifference towards the greed, because if the desire today I fulfill, the tomorrow the again new desire comes into me. It's a momentary truth. So I think we should have the indifferent attitude towards the greed. Then second is intention of goodwill and the harmlessness is the antidotes to the aversion. So by cultivating the attitude of loving and kindness, compassion towards the others will act as the antidotes towards the aversion. Okay, so right intention. When the intentions are right, the action will be right. From the action to be right, the surest guarantee is the right view. A person who holds the right view or wrong view, his deeds, words, plan, and the purpose grounded in that view will lead to the suffering. And the person who holds the right view, his deeds, words, plan, and purpose grounded in that view will lead to the happiness. So, as we saw earlier, understanding the core truth in relations to our own life give rise to the intention of renunciation. This we saw by cultivating uh, indifference towards the greed, then towards the other by give rise to the other form. So when you have cultivated the intent of renunciation, you will be have the compassion towards the other. So these are the examples. So this we can study through the FCOM, which my name taught me. That following the guru, which we saw that if you want, with the example which we saw that if you want to go to some unknown place, so you can take advice of the experienced driver or the road, or with the help of road map, then you can cultivate the faith. Reason for cultivating the faith is that it is a firm determination to reform one life in light of the truth. Then one example for the meditation, we saw that prior to the enlightenment of the Buddha, the two thoughts were coming to his mind. So you have to observe whether it's wholesome or unwholesome. Depending on this, you know the root is where its roots are the greed. It can be aversion. It can be delusion. So cultivation of the indifferenceness, cultivation of love and kindness, cultivation of attitude of compassion towards the suffering will help you in this journey. So these are the reference book from where I have taken. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mamta.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Now we may ask some questions and clarification, something,
So, any questions?
or some clarification, something.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think they don't have. Yeah, any question, please? You can ask. I'll try my best.
I suggested you to read that the book and ask you to present some of the students. And then Mamta accepted his challenge and she presented. And this way you will read at least. And then Dr. Gargi Jain also thought that she will present remaining two, three steps. So do you have any problem, some discussion, something? Should I comment something on that?
Sir, you can comment.
Actually, if you remember, I always said, you all know the Buddhism, you all, some of you are teaching. So what you have to do now, when you read the Buddhism, then you see a way that how we can use this information or this insight in philosophical counseling. Whatever you read any philosopher. So now you have to see it in different angle. Yeah, you. So what I said that the first whatever you have read, now again you read with intention that this information or this insight can be used in philosophical counseling. Uh, Now let us start with the basic premise. We are what we think. What is the meaning of this? We are what we think. Our ways of thinking influence our ways of feeling, desiring, choosing, acting, creating, relating, and being in the world. This is the so. But most of the time, whenever again, I will give one more thing. Whenever you are reading these things, you always keep in your mind there is some client or some counseling. Now, there is a counseling and how we can use this insight in solving this problem. So if you have in your mind, then you will read it differently. And then the assumption I said, the basic premise is we are what we think. आपने किया क्या अभी यार मैं अब वो उसमें मुझे आ नहीं रहा है वो करना हाँ, वो करना हाँ, तो let me say now that the once everybody has this हम जो भी हैं हम वो हैं जो हम विचारते हैं सोचते हैं हमारा विचार हमारा सोचना हमारे भावनाओं को हमारी इच्छाओं को उस हमारे संकल्प को उस सबको प्रभावित करता है और वो हमारे जो जगत में जो लोग हैं हम आस पड़ोस में सबको प्रभावित करता है हमारे इंटरपर्सनल रिलेशंस एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम we do not remember our patterns of thinking. They are so autopilot or they are old habits. And our old habit of thinking. And we always operate in such assumptions. So what in counseling, what we have to do, there are two steps of counseling. Knowing counseling is perimeter. I use the word always perimeter or in belief system. So how you will know? By questioning. So first task is philosophical counselor is knowing the counselor's perimeter or the belief system. And second is helping him in his inner transformation and going beyond the perimeter. So these are the two main tasks of the philosophical counselor. And what is the aim of the counseling? The aim of the counseling is wisdom. So he gets the wisdom. What is wisdom? You have knowledge from books, knowledge from other sources. When you put that knowledge in your experience, that gives you wisdom. So, what we do, what you should do, you can suggest to the counselor that the counseling that you reflect on your ways of thinking. Now it is not simply the counseling also, it also applies to you also. Everybody. And then just slow down and reflect your ways of thinking and ask questions yourself. This is the, you can say the examining oneself, examining one's thinking process. So by this process, we might cultivate the greater clarity, coherence, breadth and depth in our worldview. As an individual, as a counselor, you should also do this, and then you can also ask the counseling. Help him in self-examination. Self-examination and deliberate action. This is the philosophical type, you can say. But we talk about, then she talked about the transformation. So in all the eightfold paths, if you remember, we discussed last time the mindfulness. Mindfulness only helps in the peace of mind. You can, with this process, you can get the peace of mind and you can concentrate on certain things. But actually, this thing, but if you ask that the mindfulness can solve the problems or miseries of the world or our predicaments, the answer would be not only mindfulness, but all eightfold paths combinedly, jointly, they help in the eradicating or removing the suffering. So this is they are all eight are important. Now the two concepts just Mamta discussed, right vision and right intention, they are very important, and then important in the sense they are beginning and then they are also in the end. In eightfold path, we can classify them in you can say three categories. Say the wisdom, right view, and right intention, and then some of the paths as a ethical, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, and then samadhi concentration, three right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So how you can classify in that way? You remember, you must be that the feel samadhi and pragya. So pragya and wisdom. So right view is the starting point, and it is also end. Or right intention. They are two very important concepts throughout there. So what I am saying that all these eight are important from the point of the counseling. So so what I said that the eightfold path, you can classify these paths in two categories. One is more samyak drishti is one, and remaining seven and a transformational paths, you can say. So it means that the eightfold you can classify noble eightfold path and you can say two categories. First is the right vision, and second, the remaining seven is as a you can say transformation way. So they help in transformation. So right vision is essential, and then right vision is a way you can say the perfect vision or right. I use the word perfect vision so that you will understand the difference. Imperfect vision and perfect vision. When I just said we are governed by our thought process, and our thought process is we don't know, and so that thought process creates the problem in life. So that is why we use the word imperfect vision. So we have to change the imperfect vision into perfect vision, the right view. So the perfect vision is a vision of existence, a vision of truth, and a vision of reality of things. So whenever you read this right vision, or you can use the perfect vision, and in comparison to the opposite to it is the imperfect vision. So imperfect vision and perfect. From imperfect vision to perfect vision. This is the transformation. So the path of vision, this is also known as darshan marg, into the samyak drishti, perfect vision, and second the path of transformation. It is also said the bhavana marg, the mental development, and it includes remaining seven margas: perfect emotion, perfect speech, perfect action, perfect livelihood, effort, awareness, and meditation. So these are the, you can understand in this way. So if you want to transform a person, now imagine a situation, your counselee has a set of vision. Then you want to change his vision, you want to give another set of vision. This is the process of counseling. You have to change that vision. So perfect, you have to transform the vision. And in that transformation, you can use these paths, 8 paths. The path of transformation, Bhavana represents the complete and thoroughgoing transformation of one's emotional life, speech, communication with others, livelihood, and so on. So the whole being is transformed, and then this is, it means what? That if you recall the mindfulness, most of the time we are unconsciously behaving, but mindfulness is be aware of what you are doing. So in that way, that transformation means we from conscious, this is from unconscious to conscious. Most of the time we are behaving unconsciously, and then from unconscious to conscious. So transformation is you are becoming conscious of it. And there is one thing. Second point is that right view is it depends on transformation depends upon your right view. What is the level of the right view? What is the level of the perfect view? So the level of the perfect view leads to the level of the transformation. जिन लोगों का सम्यक दृष्टि अच्छी है, जो चीजों को वास्तविक पर्सपेक्टिव में देख सकते हैं, समझ सकते हैं, वो उनका ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का स्तर भी उसी तरह का होगा। आपने जिस तरह से रियलिटी को समझा किया, उसी तरह का आपका ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होगा। सो दिस इज दी, अगर हम इसको वी कैन पुट इन डिफरेंट वे, this is a kind of spiritual experience. Now, suppose the people have developed a number of therapies on this basis. The person comes with some therapies are there. So what they are doing, the person or they use this technique with the counseling having some drug addicts or some other persons also. So you are just they have a kind of point of view. They have एक उनका पेरीमीटर है, एक उनका उस पेरीमीटर के लिए आप एक स्पिरिचुअल एक विजन दे रहे हैं. So right view is spiritual vision. It is a perfect vision. And then, but this vision, when it comes to vision, it now suppose when a person comes to you for counseling, then you give a vision. आपके पास में कोई काउंसलिंग के लिए कब आता है, कब आएगा, then you will give that vision. इसके लिए देखिए कई बार क्या होता है कि something bad happens, some tragedy happens, some great bad, some loss. So the whole existence is disturbed. And then person is thinking, then he starts wondering, what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? अगर उसमें ये है, तब वो आपके पास आएगा या मीनिंग खोजेगा। तो जब भी कोई कुछ तो सोचता है आदमी कि ये मेरे साथ ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है, और अगर ऐसा है तो फिर मैं क्यों हूं, क्या इसलिए हूं। वो ही मोमेंट है जो दैट मोमेंट वो मोमेंट है जहां आप ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के लिए आप मदद कर सकते हैं, उसका ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन पॉसिबल। Number of times, sometimes you have a spontaneous mystical experience. That is also a time where you need peace, tranquility, stillness. So this is the transformation where you can help him. Now this some people should have a desire, motivation to be transformed. And these are the situation in life situation. Practical meditation sometimes uh, you don't have a clear consciousness, then you want to have. So you suppose you are busy in altruistic work. So what I am saying that there are certain occasions where that occurs in the life, person's life, and then person starts thinking, now what should I do? What is the aim of life? And this is the point where you can help him, train him, help him in you can help in transformation. And first step is right intention, right vision, or perfect vision. So then this is the first thing. Second, if you remember, we were discussing all these things, pragya and all these. Concentration, mind. I said that only concentration is not sufficient. All these eightfold path, they all are important in the transformation of person. Yes. So this is the right perfect vision. It is a vision of our actual present state of bondage and conditioned existence. If you this, so the all existence is conditioned. Once a person learns this thing, then he would like to overcome that thing. So this is the one thing. Second thing is the I was talking to you. She talked about the right intention. Now this is again important concept. Right intention. What is the meaning of right intention? Uh, if you remember, I also discussed this point. Why there is a discrepancy between theory and practice. So why there is you can say times that people say something and then they work in a different way. So this is the most important point. Why it is so like this? Because intention, intention means intention gives the direction of your action. So suppose you have an intention, you have a goodwill, intention of goodwill, and opposite to is ill will. Then you have a harmlessness, opposite to the harmfulness, cruelty, aggression, destruction, understanding of the these things. First of all, if you understand these things, then you can most of the time what happens that if you want to change the person, then that person must take these things at the level of emotion, feeling. If it is not at the level of feeling, then you will not find that the something will happen. Mere understanding. If you remember, Mere understanding will not help. Understanding means the thinking and understanding is a cognitive phenomena. So right vision is this at this level is purely a cognitive process. But right vision at the level of pragya is something higher. This is sad. She also said that right vision is first level, second level. Okay. So what happens that the most of the time the right vision is used. If right vision purely will not help, because right vision to begin with is a purely cognitive, and then if you want to change, bring some change in the behavior, then you will have to you kind of you have to touch him, his feelings, so that he takes he put into practice. By simply knowing things, nothing will happen. So by you suppose you know things and you can think, you cannot change anything. The right intention is in that way it is most useful. So this is basic purpose of the mindfulness, and we discuss. Uh, I think Eva is not there, but has she come? Or she was to speak on.
सर मैं एक बात पूछना चाहूँगा। सर आवाज़ आ रही है?
हाँ रही।
हाँ सर, मैं चाहूँगा कि एक बिंदु पर आप प्रकाश डालें कि कोई भी काउंसलर के पास जब कोई काउंसली आता है तो और मा, और मान लीजिए कि काउंसलिंग के बाद वो ये महसूस करता है कि वो अपनी परिधि से बाहर आ रहा है, स्वयं में ये महसूस करता है, लेकिन क्या भविष्य में उसकी फिर दोबारा ये स्थिति हो सकती है कि उसे काउंसलिंग की आवश्यकता पुनः आनी पड़े?
नहीं, ये हो सकता है, लेकिन ऐसा है कि वो किसी लेवल पर यही तो प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है। तो ये हो रहा है कि आपको ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का एक तो होता है कि मोस्टली जो कॉग्निटिव बात होती है, जो आप बात कह रहे हैं ना, वो कॉग्निटिव लेवल हमेशा ऐसा होगा कि वो आपको परमानेंट इलाज नहीं उसका
जी।
वो जब तक उसको वो उस लेवल पे ना ले तब तक वो एक्शन में पर नहीं होगा। और एक्शन में होने के लिए जरूरी है, क्योंकि आप इसलिए क्या होता है कि आप उपदेश दीजिए, वो सब फेलियर होता है
जी।
बहुत सारे धार्मिक उपदेश होते हैं, वो थोड़े समय तक तो रहते हैं, लेकिन वो जब आगे जब थोड़े बाद वो उनका कोई असर नहीं रहता जी। तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम हम जो बात कर रहे हैं वो ये है कि जब तक उसको जो जिस लेवल पर अगर आप करें, जैसे मान लो आप किसी को एक इंफॉर्मेशन दें और उसको जरूरत ही नहीं है, पहली बात तो ये कि वो आपके पास जो आता है तो किस सोच के आता है, जब कोई चीज के मन में फीलिंग होती है कि भाई मैं जो ये कर रहा हूँ मेरे साथ ऐसा क्यों होता है, तो फिर वो लगता है कि भाई देयर इज नीड दैट ही वांट्स समथिंग, तो वो उसको कुछ आप काउंसलर समझाता है कि भाई देखो तुम्हारा ये सोचने का जो तरीका है, तुम्हारा जो वो ठीक नहीं है। तो इस जो समझिए सवाल क्या होता है कि आपने सिद्धांत के रूप में तो चीजों को ले लिया, लेकिन सिद्धांत और व्यवहार में जो गहरा अंतर है वो अगर आप बांट दें, आप सब जानते हैं, हम लोग बात करते हैं हमेशा, आप बात करते हैं, आप लिखते कुछ है, भाषण के व्यवहार में लाते, तो इसलिए वो तब होता है कि आप इसलिए क्या करें, मतलब काउंसलर, तो वो मानवीय, वो जब तक मानवीय स्वभाव को न समझे पहले तो उसके जो जो काउंसलिंग जिससे आप बात कर रहे हैं उसको समझना जरूरी है मानुष। तो उस जब तक उसको ना समझें तो ऑन बाई और तब तक आप उसमें वो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ला नहीं सकते उसमें। तो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन लाने के लिए क्योंकि जो जो हम सब जानते हैं उसको अभ्यास में लाने के लिए हमें भावों के साथ उनको लेना पड़ेगा। राष्ट्रप्रेम की बात हो रही थी उस वक्त, तो एक तो होता है राष्ट्रप्रेम आपका एक बिल्कुल सैद्धांतिक बात है, और जब उसमें सेक्रीफाइस आती है जब उसको भावों के साथ जोड़ते हैं, इमोशंस के साथ जोड़ते हैं, तो तब मतलब वो चेंज जरूरत है। उसका मतलब है कि आप उसके लिए जरूरी है कि आप उसको समझें उस लेवल पर, और प्रॉपर जो है कि कहने का मतलब क्या है, मैं ये कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि केवल कॉग्निटिव एस्पेक्ट इज नॉट सो इम्पोर्टेंट, इवन द इमोशनल एस्पेक्ट इज आल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट।
जी।
तो ये जो और स्पेशली मैं कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ के लिए इमोशनल एस्पेक्ट बहुत एसेंशियल है।
तो सर कहने का अर्थ ये हुआ कि काउंसलिंग जितना अपनी आंतरिक अवस्थाओं को जितना गहरे रूप में जानेगा समझेगा,
हाँ,
उतना ही वो उस स्थिति में होगा कि वो निरंतर माइंडफुलनेस के साथ में अपने आप को देखे या अपने कार्य को, व्यवहार को, संवेगों को देखे।
मैं केवल ये कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि थॉट इज दी इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट रेफर टू दी, देखिए थॉट में पर्पजिवनेस तो होता है
जी।
उसमें एक कॉग्निटिव एस्पेक्ट भी होता है, ये मेंटल एक्टिविटी।
जी।
तो जब तक कहने का मतलब क्या है कि जो कॉग्निटिव एस्पेक्ट अभी थोड़ी देर मैंने कहा था, कॉग्निटिव एस्पेक्ट जो है वो सम्यक दृष्टि में होता है।
जी।
तो वो सम्यक दृष्टि जरूरी है, लेकिन वो उसको एक्शन में लाने के लिए उसके लिए परफेक्ट विल होना चाहिए,
जी हाँ।
इंटीग्रेटेड इमोशन होना चाहिए।
जी।
तो ये जब तक ये नहीं होगा ना तब तक आप उसमें वो चेंज नहीं ला सकते।
चेंज नहीं ला, परमानेंट चेंज नहीं
कभी
ला।
कह रहे हैं ना कि अभी वो चेंज होगा थोड़ी देर के लिए होगा।
जी।
तो इसका मतलब क्या है कि इसलिए हमेशा, और फिर आप क्या कहना चाह रहे हैं, वो ये कहना चाह रहे हैं, अभी मैं जो बात वहां भी उठाई थी वो ये था कि जो नेगेटिव इमोशंस हैं, देखिए हमारे यहाँ तीन तरह की बातें सीधे सीधे, कुछ चीजें जो डोरमेंट है, लेटेंट है, डोरमेंट है, तब नेगेटिव इमोशंस हैं। मैंने एक बार उसे कहा था कि नेगेटिव पॉजिटिव दोनों ही होता है, हमें काम करना चाहिए। जैसे नेगेटिव का मतलब अब देखिए नेगेटिव जो हमारे पास है, जो इलविल है या जेलसी है या हेट है, वो डोरमेंट है।
जी।
नेवर देयर इज ए स्टिमुलस तो मैनिफेस्ट होता है, एंड देन मैनिफेस्ट वो मेंटल लेवल पर है।
जी।
अब वो जब आदमी उन्हीं को व्यवहार में लाता है, भाषा में लाता है, you are enjoying now she is, so the when he brings in the action, तो डायरेक्शन कहते हैं कि ये आदमी ने पाप किया, गड़बड़ किया, वो तभी आता है कि जो मेंटली है, जो डोरमेंट था, व्हाट वाज द डोरमेंट, वो उसको स्टिमुलस से आपने उसको मैनिफेस्ट किया कि मेंटल लेवल पर है, और उसका अति तब होता है कि जब हमारे एक्शन में और हमारी भाषा में वो अव्यक्त होता है।
अव्यक्त, हाँ।
जब जिसको हम ट्रांग कहते, गाली देते हैं किसी पर,
जी।
तो हमें हमें ये टेक्निक जो है वो जिसमें पहली बात की थी, एक तो ये था कि जो हमारे पास जो हमारे जो होलसम एक्शंस हैं, गुड एक्शन जो हैं उनको तो मेंटेन करना है,
हाँ।
वो डोरमेंट है उनको लाना है,
उनको लाना। जी।
लाना है। और जो अनहोलसम जो है हमारे पास जो लोग हैं उनको हमें खत्म करना है,
खत्म करना है।
जो है वो खत्म करना है, और जो डोरमेंट को डोरमेंट रहने देना, ये बेसिक बात है।
जी।
तो वो अब ये इसमें आप इन टेक्निक्स को आप यूज कर सकते हैं। तो इसलिए क्या होता है कि आप करें क्या, जैसे मान लो है तो सब नेगेटिव अनहोलसम, तो उसको काउंटर करने के लिए उसके जैसे आप कहें कि आप कोई क्राइम के रिजल्ट के बारे में बात करें। Now you remember somebody commits a crime, but he never thinks the consequences. Once you start thinking the consequences, then he will stop. No, that will make
हाँ
some.
बिल्कुल
तो ये अब आप इनको इसलिए ये दोनों कॉन्सेप्ट बोथ दी कॉन्सेप्ट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट राइट व्यू एंड राइट इंटेंशन
जी
दे आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सो आई थिंक द eva has come and we hello
Hello?
hello we are waiting for you
Yes.
uh, now
So
doctor
am I late? Sorry for that. I thought it would start like because here it's 1:20.
now you may start
So I can start.
you may start
Okay, sure.
uh,
So yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank you for accepting me being part of this group. It's I'm happy to share with you my also experience and also in terms of the research that I've been doing in the last 5 years here in Lisbon University. I don't know if the colleague made already the presentation or not, or I will be the first one. Do you listen me well?
hello
Hello? Yes. Do you listen me?
uh, I could not hear.
You don't
Now you
listen?
may start. Now you may start.
Okay. Okay. Just to be sure that do you listen me?
यस
Yeah. Do you listen just to be sure? Are you listening me?
यस यस प्लीज
Okay,
स्टार्ट
fine. Okay, fine, fine. So yeah, I will share with you a presentation I prepared.
I'm
I'm
finding
listening.
something.
Yeah, it's a little bit noise there.
Noise?
Yeah.
No, no, you may start. There is a.
Okay, okay, okay. So I will share a presentation and you can follow me maybe through this PowerPoint. So first of all, just to explain why I chose this topic to make the presentation under this philosophical council that is joining us all together in this group. Yeah, I listen at a lot of noise.
So you start your presentation, Raja. Is there any problem? Hello? Do you have any problem? Do you have some problem? No. Which problem is it?
Sorry, I was trying to share my presentation. Just I don't know why I am having some trouble. Anyway, I'm starting like to speak about the main reason why I chose this topic to make the presentations here. First of all, I would like just to know if you are familiar with the contemplative science, or is something new in terms of the concept. You can just let your message here in the screen, because maybe I read them, but just for me to know then the main topics that we are going to present here.
Are you presenting is a PowerPoint presentation or what?
Yeah, are you seeing my presentation now? Can you please confirm if you are looking to my presentation on the screen?
No.
Sorry, I am just trying to share my presentation because I'm having some trouble with it. And now, can you see my presentation now?
No.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Fine. So sorry for the delay, but it was not easy. It was not easy to find out why it was not working. So yeah, I was saying that first of all, I choose this topic because I think it's very important to understand where we can find like a main support regarding to the philosophical counseling support and foundation. So you can find out during my presentation why that is important and function and to give meaning to our lives. So, for example, if you want to give an example, in the same way as love and other universal values, for example, that are not tangible to our senses, but they cannot deny their existence. Subjective experiences have also been shown that it is possible to prove the existence of non-physical phenomena, although despite the difficulties that science has to accept them. So the non-physical aspect are the main factors that explain our particularity and diversity as regarding to our human nature. Um, we all know that in a certain physical phenomena, the classical science needs to discover and to develop different instruments to study certain issues. For example, the discovery of new planets was possible through the development of certain technologies. And also, they have been understood by scientists that have dedicated more time to this area. Also, the subjective experiences on the non-physical phenomena of human nature have been assessed and understood by people who have spent more time with their experiences. So, bringing in this sense extraordinary results in terms of human being understanding. So, as I don't know if you are familiar with Nikola Tesla, he said that the day science will begin to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. When we speak about non-physical phenomena, what are we including here? So, of course, that mental and consciousness understanding, it has not been possible through the methodology of classical science. And beyond that, we include also in these non-physical phenomena like transcendence, consciousness, human mind, creativity, and intuition. So also it's important to understand that in the contemplative science we include a variety of methods that use inductive instead of deductive approach. And this just to train the mind, cultivating the capacity for a deep, for a present and consciousness concentration. Contemplative science also are related to the different characteristics of human beings, and they are the main reasons to contribute for the promotion of the spiritual dimension and its elements, as I explained before, like that can be called spiritual or even universal values such as kindness, compassion, selfless love, peace, interdependence, among others. So contemplative practices can include various forms of concentration, relaxation, prayer, and meditation. Although the term contemplative, according to this author, Wallace, that used this term, is more often associated to the area of meditation research. And meditation is inseparable from the silence, which is from the other end is considered like the silent perception of reality that allows us to train and develop a pure view of the mind. Silence that is that constitutes the deepest and inner dimension of being is considered like to be to transcend the thought, which is in the opinion of Krishnamurti, that you may know better than me. He's an Indian philosopher. Represent the noise of the past. So a great potential to unite also the science and religion, and have contributed to a more effective progress of humanity towards happiness and truth. So when we speak about meditation, it is important to understand that it's not the word itself that it's important. Like Krishnamurti says, like if you do not know what meditation is, it is like having a flower without scent. So meditation, he considered, is the perfume of life. And also, according to other authors, if we give too much importance to the word itself, but not to the practice, it is like the finger that point to the moon, but not the moon itself. So meditation represents heritage of humanity, and is an internal need for everyone to be able to benefit from all human potential. It is considered to be the ideal method to overcome the domain of reason and to integrate thought into other forms of energy, creating access to deep spiritual wisdom. Its meditation also gives people access to know the fundamental state of consciousness, which represents the state of mind from which all conscious thought flows emerge. So meditation is an inner peace and the source of energy, the way of being in contact with our essence, enabling us to understand the experience of a greater reality, of being interconnected with the whole. So meditation is the way to reach the state which Abraham Maslow, as you know, called the peak experience. So what is the peak experience? He considers that the peak experience is when the people feels at the peak of his powers, using all his abilities in the best and most complete way. So it has been also characteristic of the meditation, its transdisciplinarity that gives to him also a a big importance regarding to. Yes, let me see here. Yes, I saw. In this sense, having into consideration all the benefits that we can have from meditation, it has spread throughout the communities in East and West. Because of all the beneficial results that have been shown in different kinds, not only in academy, in different disciplines, but also in different spheres of the community. So it has been very fast spreading in Western society in different professional areas, including education, health, business, law, politics, prisons, as well as also it has been used for treatment of different diseases, problem solving in a different dimension, like intellectual, psychological field, psychiatric disorders, self-esteem, self-realization, creativity, among others. Also, this transdisciplinarity character of the meditation is one of the most important factors that makes meditation a very suitable integrative development of human being. Meditative practices have shown also very satisfactory results in the quality of work, in interpersonal, family relationship, and in decision making. So in the 80s and 90s, in this decade, meditation also started to be introduced in business areas and in non-governmental organizations. And inspired by the study that associated meditation to the reduction of stress and increase of worker satisfaction, it began also to show interest in promotion of the meditation in the work environment. So these results demonstrated to bring other benefits from professional point of view related to the increase of the commitment to the work, the improvement of the communication, the capacity to deal with organizational challenges, the increase of the motivation, and the improvement of the quality of life. Relationship and practices in the workplace. Studies carried out in the field of neuroscience have shown that it's possible to prove structural changes in the brain of people who meditate regularly. Through the use of electroencephalogram, researchers have shown that the practice of meditation contributes to the improvement of attention, concentration, and impulse control. Virtually all the benefits of meditation are related to the promotion of neuroplasticity, which concerns the brain ability to adapt to respond to a task, either structurally or functionally. So, I because we are all from the area of philosophy, it is important to understand the relation of the meditation also in meditation has been used in philosophy since in the ancient time. And and sorry for that. I am just regarding West because I live in West, but of course that in India for sure you have a much more richer information and experience than us here, because meditation was for a long time not used in Western. But it's important to know that it has been increased not only in general in the society, but also in the difficult area that was academy, where I found the way to bring this tool for the promotion of our well-being, and also for the promotion of all the philosophers that need to use this tool in our daily profession, like the philosophical counseling. So, since in the ancient time, the philosophy was not just seen and as discipline, academic discipline, but it was also seen as a way of living or a method for looking at the world from different perspectives. And what was this regarding to? So living philosophically was related or meant engaging in a set of practices by which the individual can acquire assimilate, and transform the truth into a permanent principle of action. So these practices were known as I said, here in Western, with the name of ascesis, which, according to some author, for example, Adot or even Foucault, they called like spiritual exercises or even practices of the self. So philosophy was really important at the time, and because the promotion to live philosophically, as I said, was related to the participation of in different exercises, also meditation, examination of consciousness, and contemplation of nature. So one of the in Stoicism, if you are familiar with that, they considered that inside each individual there is a treasure that if it was taken care, nothing could defeat him. So he believed that the value of life was inside each human being, depending the care on each person and not from the outside world. So in this sense, the most important thing was that individual learns to take care of what needs to be cared. So referring to things that are free from any possible outside obstacles. And for this end, what he taught this practice that was called ataraxia, which consists in the focus of all mental energy to improve the things that depend on human beings. So as you see, it is completely harmonious what meditation is. So ataraxia, you can see, is equal or is a synonym of meditation. And for him, in order to live like philosophically and a harmonious life, people should reconcile two adversaries: the personal wins with the light. So as it is, not as we want the light to be, in order to avoid disturbance and absorb themselves in an ataraxic state of mind. So the absence of any disturbance resulted for the harmonious relation between personal interests and nature of the cosmos. So he also Epithet also spoke about the importance of focusing on the present moment, which is like accepting things as they are in the present. Since for Epithet, all the happenings or occurrences that did not depend on man will happen by a greater will. So thus, it is only the harmonic relationship between personal and the will of the whole that would produce good results, because it means like acting according to the will of the next. So focusing on what does not depend on us for these stoicism, meant like to set ourselves for unhappiness. So the present moment is the only moment that depends on us. And so because we cannot change the past and we do not know what will happen in the future, but we do have control over our perception of things. So in this sense, for Stoicism, it was considered that the development of the focus at the present moment, it would be enough to guarantee or to ensure happiness. So I had also the opportunity in the previous lecture to explain that I am a Vipassana practitioner. I could not speak about other meditation practice, since this is a practice that it's part of my daily life, and also it has been part of my research in an academic field. So, as I told you, since meditation is something that is represent not the same issues or topics as other topics related to to classical science, it's important for the scientists, for each one of us, not to explain the big practice just intellectually, but in terms of our experience. So that's why I bring Vipassana as one of the practice that brought to me a lot of differences, and also has enriched my life in all of these perspectives that I hold. So what is Vipassana? What does it mean? So Vipassana means to the things as they really are, so not as we want them to be, but as they really are. So it is considered also an insight meditation because one of its main goals is to help people understand the deep nature of universal issues with the origin of the internal nature of human beings. So Vipassana is also known as a mindfulness meditation since it considers of a technique that leads people to remain deeply attentive. So, as one of the teachers that have been during the last decades, he died in 2013, Glenka, he said that teaching others the path of purity is only possible through the development of purity in ourselves. So, Vipassana has also, although has been developed like in East by Buddhists, by Buddha, it is not, it has shown that it's not a religious practice, and it is distinguished from other religious practices by the fact that while in these practices people seek enlightenment through divine grace, in Vipassana, self-realization is considered possible only through the experience and effort of each one. So, knowing that human beings generally share the same problems and being Vipassana technique that seeks to eradicate the problems, it is recommended and has had universal application. It has been also proven how important has been the acceptance of Vipassana in Western. So, although in terms of religions, it has not been like related to any religious practice. So in the Vipassana, the process of self-purification is possible through the technique of introspection that requires hard work from each person. So, or in other words, if we want to say, it is through our own efforts that each one of us is able to reach the state of self-accomplishment. And no one else will be able to do this work obtaining results for us. So if we want to improve ourselves in terms of mind training, it has to be an effort from each one of us. So in this way, in Vipassana only works with persons who are committed and are able to work in a disciplined way. So discipline is part of this meditative practice and helps practitioners to understand and feel the benefit. So as I said, like at the heart of Vipassana is mindfulness, the cultivation of full awareness, which gradually contributes to dissolving obstacles that arise in the person's full development. So just as in the West, that has been developed in external science through the techniques that have proven to be the most effective way we know today to describe external physical reality, the East has developed also a form of internal science or contemplative science, as I told, like also through techniques that apply to the inner world, that is to the world of subjective experiences, through hearing, through sight, through smell, through taste, through touch, and the nature of the mind. So Vipassana represents exactly the science around these senses, which means seeing things as they are, as I said before, in reality, and consists in the eradication of mental impurity, which allows the experience of a greater feeling of happiness as a result of a total freedom. So, just as, for example, scientists have developed microscope as a tool that allows us to see things that cannot be seen by our eye, the practice of Vipassana is a tool that contributes to the exploration of our inner world, allowing us to see subtle levels invisible and impossible to be seen otherwise. So the name of Vipassana, in the difference, for example, of Vipassana regarding to other kinds of meditation is that it's not just the concentration of the mind, but concentration and calming the mind are seen just as need and as mean to reach the final goal, which is the purification of the mind, not only at the superficial level, but at the deep levels. So this purification represents the condition for getting rid of all problems we face in life in a balanced way. So Vipassana helps us to clear the mind, calming it and making clear the process of thought flow. It is not intended to treat like only physical illness, but also through results of purifying the mind, many psychosomatic illnesses are also eradicated. So, to achieve purification of the mind, Vipassana consists on changing our behavior. At the present moment, we saw the importance of the present moment in terms of philosophy, the previous slide. So Vipassana shows also that it's a very important tool to try to reach this practice. So as a consequence of external stimuli that each one of us receive during our daily life, it is possible to create blockages and tensions which can reach our deepest level of the mind, causing a state of agitation or tension. So through Vipassana practice, the person travels in the depth of the mind, trying to get to the source of the problems, managing to understand reality on the basis of each own experiences, and not only from an intellectual point of view. So the person explores the reality from the whole being, the mind, and the matter through his own experiences, starting at the surface level and penetrating more and more deeply in the most subtle levels. Then any step that we take in this technique from the beginning until reaching the final goal represent the truth experienced by each person in the present moment related to the physical and mental structure. Through the practice of Vipassana, the person is able to achieve more productivity in the actions and become less reactive in relation to the external stimuli. Vipassana is also a form of self-transformation, which is achieved through the practice of a deep self-observation of the mind and body. Through it, the person is able to dissolve the impurities created in the mind, which contributes to the development of a balanced mind. So it is a technique in which practitioners discover through their own experience the laws of nature that govern the universe, while understanding that it is by respecting these laws that people can reach self accomplishment. A continuous practice of Vipassana meditation helps the people to relieve the tensions that happen on a daily basis by improving concentration, the way to manage anger and anxiety, increases emotional stability, and develops a sense of fullness. So, which are three fundamental teachings that are on the basis of Vipassana meditation. We can say that there are three fundamental teachings, starting with Shila, if for the ones that are familiar. This is related to what Dr. Sharma also shared with us in the previous lecture, saying that it is related to our ethical conduct. So, to performing wholesome actions, not only regarding to the other people, but also regarding to ourselves. So, it is. Like it consists in avoiding behaviors of actions that hurt or harm others. So Sheila encompasses a concept of morality, virtues that play a central role in Vipassana meditation. So following all these ethical conduct, according to Western scientists, that is Goldstein, he said that represents a simpler and less complicated way to live. So Sheila contributes to the improvement of the quality and tranquility of life, as well as to the development of the discipline of the mind, and to the harmonization of our action in the world. The development of Sheila is one of the most important steps for training the mind and help the people to achieve its purification. So Sheila is considered to be the foundation for the second stage of Vipassana practice, that is Samadhi. Samadhi also helps people to gain control over our undisciplined mind and develop concentration and purification of the mind. So becoming the, if we want to call, the master of our mind. So according to some other workings, samadhi consists of training the mind, focusing on the present moment, using the observation of breath for for these without attachment or aversion. So samadhi helps the person to learn to control the mind, suppressing all its impurities. With the practice of samadhi, impurities are not still eliminated, but they remain in the unconscious mind and can from there multiply. But the concentration of the mind is necessary for the purification of the mind. And to make this process more and more natural for person, a strong concentration bring important results in the perception and purity of the mind. So for this reason, it is considered important to practice the third step of Dhamma, that is Panya. So Panya, or as it is known like wisdom, concerns in the purification of the mind that it is made possible through the practice of the first two teachings, Shila and Samadhi. So Panya is about developing wisdom, an inner vision that helps a person to clear the mind from all the impurities at its deepest level and experience true happiness. Just as Shila leads to development of Samadhi, this Samadhi in turn leads to the development of Panya. The highest stage of Panya concerns is related to Bhavanamaya Panya, which is the wisdom that is developed within each person on the level of experience that goes beyond intellectual knowledge and that leads the person to Nibbana, liberation from all impurities or the full accomplishment. So Shila is one that comes first and that gives rise to Samadhi and Panya. The stronger the foundation, the stronger the development of the technique. Therefore, the neglect of Shila conditions the performance and scope of the benefits of Vipassana. The practice of Shila and Samadhi is important, but neither can eliminate the impurities accumulated in the mind, which begins as the mind becomes more and more focused, becoming able to penetrate the depths of our unconsciousness. So that Shila, Samadhi, and Panya help each other and interconnect each other. But only one of them cannot lead us to final liberation, to final freedom. The development of either of them facilitates the development of the other two. So, in the perspective, as Goldman said, it represents the three facets of a single process. So, of course, that Vipassana meditation, we have to consider also some difficulties related to the practicing of this practice of Vipassana. But having into consideration also the characteristics of our modern life, we know that people are involved in several tasks at the same time. This represents a trend that begins as soon as children, for example, enter to school. So this phenomena arises what have contributed to the development of an agitated mind that transits between different thoughts, memories, and images that cause a constant background noise. Since the tendency of the life, the trend has been like to repeat the same habit promoted by the modern society, each person contributes to the conservation of these habits, making them part of our lives, so that without involving much effort and with the help of our memory, they become automatic. So Vipassana meditation represents a practice that requires behavior that goes against these habits that we have been created and developed, seeking to discipline the mind, reconfiguring the habits caused by human automatism using different methods than usual, such as, for example, focusing our breathing on observing sensations, however, contributing to the development of new ways of living that does not align with modern paradigm that separates the body from the mind. So Vipassana can also, for this, face various resistance from practitioners. Now, one of the difficulties of Vipassana in general context is related to being silent during the practice, which can cause several psychological and emotional difficulties related to anxiety, agitation, passion, nervousness, and also euphoria. So the development of the technique does involve challenges at different levels. So in addition, also if we consider in terms of psychological problem, Vipassana also can cause somatic problems by keeping the body posture in the same position for some time. Staying in the same position can cause several pains in the body, representing one of the factors that can lead to abandoning the practice. Although it is not an easy practice, silence, posture in the same position, and the pain caused in Vipassana are considered as necessary factors to obtain the benefits of the practice, without which it could not be possible to achieve purification of the mind at its most profound levels. So, in pain in practice of Vipassana is not a sign of a problem or illness with the body. Contrary to the idea that is promoted by the dualistic paradigm in classical science that explain that pain is essentially physical, but it is understood as a somatic sensation, which represents manifestation of the mind to develop non-reactive capacity. So, non-reaction to pain, maintaining the same posture, is understood as a test to develop our equanimity. So, the change in posture on the contrary, can break the connection that person establishes with the mind during the period of observation of breathing and sensation. The pain that the person experiences during the practice of vipassana is temporary, so impossible to be relieved and experienced through the movement of the body. But in this case, the movement would represent a kind of reaction, which thus goes against the objective of the technique that seeks to develop a non-reactive attitude, either in the relation to the strongest sensation or in the relation to the more subtle one. So, silence, staying in the same position, and acceptance of pain represent rules and recommendations to help the person benefit from all aspects of vipassana through the freedom of the mind that enables a new understanding of being in the world. And these rules and suggestions are not well understood. That can, when are not well understood, they can be interpreted and can lead the person to abandon the practices. So, but all these difficulties that I showed does not mean and must not be understood as a kind of justification to not give a try to all the benefits that Vipassana can bring to people. This picture that I brought here is the center of the Sama Damapanya in Spain, where I had the opportunity to develop all the 4 courses that I developed until now. 3 of 10 days silence course and 1 of Satipatthana. So, and now just to make a kind of analogy between Vipassana and science, it's important to see how, like, we can see some similarities between a Vipassana practitioner and also a scientist. So Vipassana practitioner is also why is so similar with the scientist. So if the Vipassana practitioner examines the pain that experience in the body in an objective way, just as the scientist experiments in his laboratory lab, and where there is a failure, they both try again. So when a Vipassana meditator start to feel a pain and the mind is going somewhere else through the observation, he goes again to the breath. So the same happened to the scientist. The development of an reactive and the equanimous observation is also scientific, since the meditator seeks to distance himself from the sensation. As he continues to develop the practice, maintaining the same procedures, developing a scientist look at himself through the practice of a somatic form of attention. Vipassana meditator also observe the sensation that occurs throughout the body without trying to evaluate or judging them, with equanimity and objectivity. The practice of Vipassana transforms the mind into a kind of machine that is capable to face the depth of reality and allows for equanimous and objective observation through the implementation of a method that not only transforms the quality of observation, but also allows to experience new phenomena. So when we speak about the practice of vipassana, the person is able also to experience a sensation that with the help of the breathing, which the aim of which is to transform the common habit of the minds. So when we enter or we become like more experienced in the practice, we can see that we are experiencing the law of the universe that the person experienced during the practice. For example, one of the laws is the law of impermanence, which is when the person develops the concentration of the mind, we begin to understand and to observe the changing nature as well as the body understanding the law of constant change, that is of impermanence. This reality happens either with the most subtle sensation or with the strongest one, when the nature of which is the same. So of rising and passing away, which can be also experienced repeatedly. So they repeated without interruption. It is the experience of constant flow that characterize the entire mental structure of the matter that are also reflected in the quantum mechanics, in case you are familiar with, that have shown us that they came to the conclusion that there is no solidity in the material world. So the impermanence can only be understood through the person's own experience. Otherwise, everything that is explained outside the body can only be understood at the intellectual level, which is not enough to explain the interaction that takes place at a very deep and subtle level. So understanding this truth of phenomena of mind and matter, the person discovered that things come and go, sometimes with very fast speed, or sometimes may take a very long time. So this whole reality should not be accepted just because other people or other researchers or other practitioners have said so. But it has to be, must be examined through the experience of each one in order to discover whether it represents the truth or not. So Vipassana is considered a science of being that is established in the universal laws of nature that regulate at the same time the life of the individual. So Vipassana practitioners witness and experience the union between mind and matter. After some serious practice, we start to understand and to reach a state in which we experience the whole body as a mass of vibration. This direct experience provides more clarity about the nature of matter and mind than any other theoretical content that we may read or try to understand. As a practitioner understand the experience and the law of impermanence, we start to understand also another aspect of the manifestation of our being that is called anatta. So if the impermanence was called anicca, the manifestation of the being and the vibration that we experience of the free flow, is called anatta, which is based on the idea that we are not immutable beings, but we are constantly changing. So anatta means not me, or the absence of the ego. When the person understands and experiences this vibration, the existence of me or mind does not make sense anymore. So Anatta explains that the nature of our existence is changeable, as we understand by the law of anicca, of impermanence, that within the physical and mental structure there is nothing permanent. So, two authors, Tom and Pitt, for example, they considered that mind and matter are inseparable and intertwined. Just as in a computer game, the player and the screen are united by participation in common loops. So, in this view, mind and matter are two aspects of one whole and no more separable than are form and content. The experience of anicca and anatta also helps us to avoid and eliminate the difficulties in understanding mental and physical phenomena, which sometimes, despite knowing their impermanent nature, we try or we tend to look for something permanent to satisfy our rules, our lives. This is the third aspect of Vipassana wisdom, which concerns and is the origin of the suffering, dukkha. I think that the other colleague was going to explain some of the foundation also of or these laws in other reflecting in the book that Dr. Sharma also suggested us to read. Um, so the third dukkha is the third aspect of the vipassana wisdom, which concerns in the origin of suffering, which is the person try to want to possess or keep something that is constantly changing. That is what is beyond our control and goes against the nature of things. So, but when we speak about the sensation, as I told you, how, of course, that we maybe can, the question can be raised, and how these sensations are created. So, in Vipassana, these sensations have the origin or are created through the contact that we establish between one of our senses and the object related to this sense. So, for example, through contact of the eye with an image, the ears with a sound, the nose with a smell, the tongue with a flavor, the body with something tangible, the mind with a thought or imagination. Through these contexts, the person gives rise to a certain sensation in the body, which can be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So, although the sensation occurs throughout the body due to biochemical and the electromagnetic interaction between the body and the environment around us, some sensation occurs below a threshold of consciousness in most people, with the exception of practitioners with a trained and disciplined mind. From the point of view of Vipassana, the deepest part of our mind, known as subconsciousness or unconscious, is constantly in contact with this sensation, always reacting to them in the form of greed, of aversion, which, although we do not always understand, they represent the root of the dissatisfaction of modern life. So this view of Vipassana can be reflected also from the point of view of neuroscientific point of view. So, according to Antonio Damasio, I don't know, he's a well-known neuroscientific, all the living organisms have the ability to automatically regulate their internal environment, maintaining psychological and physiological stability. So, in the case of human beings, this self-regulation is ensured by the brain through a complex of network of mechanisms that have the capacity to sense any disturbance of external stimuli in all parts of the body. This network automatically makes possible appropriate action through the release of chemical molecules in the body stream, transmitting electrochemical signals along with the neural pathway spreading throughout the body to restore and recover its physical and psychological stability. So, according to the neuroscientific Damasio, there is a kind of hierarchy of these regulatory reactions, starting with emotion and feelings. And then with the metabolic regulation for the most basic reflexes, the responses related to the immune system and behaviors related to pain and trauma. But we will concentrate more in the emotions and feelings that are most important to make the analogy with Vipassana. According to Damasio, many of these changes in the body that happens in the outside part are possible to identify by other people, while other changes inside the body can only be perceived by the person it's himself. So, in what concerns the feeling, Amaru said that They are associated with the perception of all the changes that represent an emotional response. What does it mean? According to him, the essence of the feeling of an emotion is related to the experience of this change in overlap of the mental image that starts the cycle. Thus, the sensory signals that form the basis of the feeling of an emotion are mainly introspective. So, many studies that carried out in the brain region during the periods when the person experienced feeling of joy and sadness demonstrated that the feeling of an emotion is associated with changes in body's neural system. When the body is in a peaceful feelings were associated with variation in pleasure, and in cases where the body was out of control and made an effort to seek balance, feelings were associated with variation in pain. Through monitoring changes in the skin, many studies have shown that the person always registers emotions which may have different characteristics depending on the factors and stimuli related to the cognitive process of each one. So, emotions eventually can give rise to feelings, which in turn feed the flow of thought and which in turn can give rise to new emotions. So, the presence of other stimuli can lead to the cancellation of the appearance of other emotions as well as it can cause their intensification if there is a reactive attitude of the person towards somatic sensation, as it happens in general. So a non-reactive attitude, as we saw through the practice of Vipassana, contributes to soften and eradicate the emotion that causes suffering progressively. Through non-reactive observation of somatic sensation, which forms the substrate for the feelings, constant changes in sensation can be softened, being this process equivalent to the breaking of automatic relations that exist between emotions and feelings within the scope of neuroscience. Knowing that it is the experience which configures the creation of the neural circuit shape, as Damasio also referred, the practice of Vipassana creates alternative neural which make it easier to maintain the balance between the different events of our lives. So regarding the speed of the neural function, a neurosurgeon, Benjamin Libet, he also found that there is an interval of a quarter of a second between awareness of the intention to act and the action itself. So these internals offers an opportunity to break the trend of our common habits. It means that instead of a person reaching to somatic sensation in automatic way, as we are already used to do, through a proper practice, it is possible to learn just to observe and not to react to sensation. So this demonstrates that regardless of the nature of the sensations, there is the possibility of training the mind to remain equal. From the point of view of Vipassana teachings, the subconscious mind, with the exception, for example, of the cases where people have a trained mind, is constantly in contact and reacts to the sensation of the body that are not always felt by the conscious mind. So the mind confirms this perception, starting that the person is not conscious about all parts of the body at all times because of external phenomena or stimuli which generates and causes continuous instruction from the constant functioning of the body. So Vipassana meditation provides a possible explanation and scientific solution using the practice of non-reactive observation of a somatic sensation to soften or even eliminate the reactive tendencies of the subconsciousness mind. It is not, of course, we cannot say that it is a logical conclusion to say that there is a great harmony between science and Vipassana meditation. contributing vipassana to increase the person's awareness of the nature and functioning of the being, which concerns evanescent state of reference, continuous and constant, that, as Damasio says, is constructing from the ground up in each moment, and the person never knows it is being remade. So, although we know that science has faced many difficulties in understanding the result achieved through the vipassana practice, since scientific understanding is generally related to the intellectual perception of things and is not based on experience, this all can show us and demonstrate that despite all the difficulties that I shared with you, and that the science may face in accepting and providing and proving these principles, there are subjective experiences that should not be ignored and should be at least used as kind of hypotheses for further studies and research. Um, I brought this passage from Einstein, Albert Einstein, that it shows us how important it is to understand this free flow and the world of vibration that we experience in our daily life, to see that life does not make sense looking or watching to it or understanding it as separate from the world and from other human beings. That's why it makes sense for me to share with you when he says that a human being is a part of the whole by our universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. That's why I said in the beginning that I feel really happy to join with this group, since in terms of geographical position we are so far from each other, but we, as we can see, we can come very close to each other and to share our experience. That is the only way that we can reach our lives, and also we can be helpful to the others. So for in the end, I just wanted to share with you what we have been doing, like in my work, regarding to all these topics that I had the opportunity to share with you. So we have been trying to implement and to bring all these principles in unique space in Lisbon, near Lisbon, 40 kilometers from Lisbon in Malta, and we called it Values University. And Values University, it's not a kind of university that we are familiar with. So do not give classes, but we receive people from different ages to experience all these non-physical phenomena that I shared with you. So Values University consists to be a center for studies and research. It was developed having into consideration the teachings from East and West, and also from science and spirituality, joining or uniting any both of them in one unique space. So it promotes universal values through the experience, as I said, that is the only way to demonstrate and to show the existence of these non-physical phenomena through digital and non-digital activities, as you can see by these pictures that are on the screen. And also it was based in a perspective, in a holistic perspective, to promote meditation that can be nurtured from East and from West teachings. So it helps different ages to find answers and solutions to their ethical dilemmas, and also through the vision of documentaries, films that contribute for self-reflection. It also brings people to a deepest way of understanding the world. So I don't know. I don't know if I have still some time. Do I?
So, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted, in case I have just 5 or 10 minutes, I just wanted to explain a little bit like why the breathing is so important in Vipassana. But I just wanted to ask if I have these 5 to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Eva Adrio. Actually, that your lecture was very comprehensive, and then you the personal as a science and neuroscience here. I think if you somebody is interested in asking question, you may ask. But it requires a lot of you listen her peacefully, and he gave me very good suggestion last time that we have a mood of counseling. So
Yeah.
we will take her expertise in this direction. And then this time I don't know why people have not joined. Number of people have the participating is less, and we covered different aspects of Vipassana. And this is all training aspects. Some want to pursue it theoretically, but you have to also. So
Yeah.
I'm very thankful to Eva Nedrio, and she is teaching in a university. Is a she has you have done a lot good job. Thank you very much from
Thank
our
you also.
counseling. Do you have any question, somebody? Or I think next time we should discuss the complete this. We will again have this lecture and then other people, and we should all know what she is doing. It will be beneficial to our students. Ethical counseling. I think her cooperation will always be with us. If you have any question, you may ask.
Yes, please.
Professor Jain, I don't know why people have time, otherwise something the time, long time or what is not do. But it was a good presentation, very good. You have done a hard.
Thank you. If I can, while the other participants also can make some questions, I just wanted to share, because I didn't have the opportunity during this presentation, just to share why the breathing in Vipassana is so important, and the bridge effect that it creates between the different worlds where we are living. So maybe the first one is the connection or the bridge it creates between inner world and the outer world. So it's very easy to understand that when we breathe, all the air that is surrounding us also is shared by many people. So if we bring inside the air, also we can testimony the importance of the outer world in our inner world, because we feed each other with the same air that we share. So this maybe is the first characteristic of the breath. The second one, if we consider how we are constituted, for example, we have like the outer organs of our body that it's very easy to give an order and them to obey to our orders, such as arms, such as eyes, ears, nose, mouth, etc. But inside our body, we have organs that we know so little about them. And we don't know if we want to give to them an order, we know that they will not obey us. Of course, you can say to your heart, stop working. But of course, nothing will happen. The heart will continue to work. The same with the lungs, the same with the stomach. But how we can see the breathing so important in this connection between these organs or parts of the body from the outer sides that can work voluntarily, or the inside one that can work involuntarily. This means that without the need of our orders. So what about the breathing? How it is working? If we breathe in a voluntary way, it is possible. Like if we want to stop breathing, it's just so simple. Like close your eyes and your mouth, and you can stop breathing. But of course, the breathing happens most part of our times involuntarily. So it happens otherwise we want or not them to work. So the most important is like to be conscious about this breathing because this create this second bridge from the outer side of the world and the inner side. As deep as we go inside to our without breathing and sensing all these senses that I talk, we will be able to experience the most subtle sensations that it would be impossible without the practice. So then we understand this free flow and this world of vibration that I shared with you is explained in terms of going inside and knowing how all the body is working, like trying to connect the mind and the matter. So this is the second one. We see that breathing is maybe the only or the unique characteristic we have that function in both ways, like voluntarily and not voluntarily. And the third bridge that breathing also creates and develops is regarding to the function of mind and the function of body. Just to give two simple examples. When we make an effort, physical effort, it's very easy for us to see how breathing also is changing. It becomes much more fast. We need to breathe more oxygen inside in order to make a kind of stability in our body. Like, for example, when we run, we see that we feel we need to breathe more fasten. But and in terms of mind, what does it happen with the breathing? Just we can stop a little bit and we can reflect when we are facing some problems in our life, some solutions that we are not being able to find, or something else. We see that also the breathing will lose its stability. It means that the breathing affects as much as the body as affect the mind. So, and when we start relaxing or naturalize our breathing, we see that the mind become also much more relaxed. That's why breathing is seen as a very important tool to relax our body and to relax our mind, establishing this third bridge between mind and matter. So that's why breathing is a very important tool if we want to go and to reach our deepest uh, sense of human being and also understanding the world inside and outside. That makes sense that it's not, we are never and cannot never be separated from the outer world since we are just one. And that's why it will be impossible to reach the peace in the world when we see other people that are suffering and other that are in a more favorite state. So that's why we have to see the world as one, not as a separate one. And the borders also do not help to construct and to develop peace, but each one of us as individuals can give our contribute to help as little. It doesn't matter which is the scale, but we can give each one of us the best we can to improve our lives. It means I and the other. The other. It doesn't exist if we have in consideration another. So not me, not mine. Okay.
Actually, this is all practice for somebody is doing this breathing practice, then he will understand the in the right way. The theoretical understanding will not help. It requires a practice. That is why in the other day I said we should have a practice. Without that, you cannot understand these very complex things also. So only the practicing person can understand. Thank you very
Yeah,
much. Thank you.
thank you.
जैन साहब कुछ है क्या?
No, no, it's great because I could listen only half of it. But joining was so late. I was asking right in the beginning, but anyway, that's a wonderful. Some of the meditation and vipassana, and the beauty is in her presentation is to make a link between neuropsychology or neurology and the mind, the experience, the emotion. That is wonderful. And I think you are right, Sharmaji, that it needs practice, only then certain questions, relevant questions will arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's a Professor Jain is a former professor of psychology and a vice chancellor of university, and he's joined in our group. It's a nice presentation.
Thank you.
Really nice.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you also.
I would like that the mood sessions, that is most essential. If you're really interested in philosophical counseling, then they should have a practice for that.
Hmm.
By listening, you can't do all these things. You have to practice for it. Everything. So next time we shall plan. I will consult with you, and then we shall have a 2, 3 mood sessions. And I think Eva will. She will have give other presentations also. It will be good for our participants. Thank you.
I can share, sure, I can share my presentation. I can send to you and you can share to with the other participants for sure.
It will be YouTube on the YouTube. It will
Yes.
be recorded. It will be YouTube.
Ah, okay. They can have it on YouTube. Okay,
But you
right.
can.
And of course, I am open to receive your question. If you want to email me, I will put here my email. Okay, so that you can contact for everything you may need during your lifetime. You can just email me. Okay, it's really an honor for me to cooperate with Indian colleagues that it's not so easy to find like here in Portugal. So really, I am very open to the cooperation. Okay?
Thank you. Actually,
Just a minute, Sharmaji.
thank you.
The way you were talking, I think you can give a demonstration by asking someone to join you. You give some instructions, a sort of lively demonstration.
Ah,
Sometimes, whenever you like, that Sharmaji was also saying that a demonstration is needed where the therapist, or you can say counselor, and the counseling. So, if you will give some sort of demonstration, that will be very nice for all the participants to know how to do it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you. Sure.
thank you very much. Namaskar. Namaskar.
Okay,
Yeah.
namaskar. Good
So
evening.
I wrote my email. Okay, for the one that will need it. You have in the message my email. Okay.
Actually, I am finding difficulties. There's something wrong. Like, you know, cycle. Thank
This
you.
technical problems.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rajkumarji, thanks. You have sent the book.
सर थैंक यू वेरी मच सर नमस्कार.
Thank you, namaskar. I received your book,
अच्छा सर.
edited book. Uh-huh.
जी.
हाँ चलिए
Okay.
ठीक है सर. ओके.
नहीं बड़ा हुआ है यार बहुत कम लोगों ने जो गुड लेक्चर लेक्चर था, बड़ी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव।
बहुत बढ़िया लगे।
हाँ, और वो लोगों ने पता नहीं क्या चाहता, बहुत कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव था, बड़ा मेहनत करके तैयार किया हुआ लेक्चर।
हम्म। वो एक्सपीरियंस भी है ना।
हाँ, वो करती है ना, प्रैक्टिसिंग है वो,
हम्म।
इसलिए फर्क होता है उससे। बड़ा फर्क पड़ता है जो प्रैक्टिस करता है।
ओ यस, ओ यस। चलिए, सबको नमस्कार, थैंक यू। हाउ टू एस्केप।
इसको बंद कर दूं क्या? सॉफ्टवेयर इसमें कोई मूवमेंट हो रहा है? हैं? अच्छा, हो गया, रिकॉर्ड हो गया। बंद कर दूं? बंद ही नहीं हो रहा है तो। ये कह रहा करंटली एक्टिव।